And it's a good afternoon this time, Guardians, Ghosts, and Gamers. I apologize for the mic pop. As usual, I am unprepared, unscripted, and unprofessional, and uncaring. Week 2 of the Season of the Lost, and so far a very satisfying experience. Um, I am at the quest step now where Savathun wishes to do another expo dump. So let's get on with it. I'm going to shut up and turn the volume up so I can hear it. In fact, actually, I think I'll go ahead and put everything straight through the headset so that I can hear it all pretty well. There we go. Alrighty.
I knew you'd be back. I'm so glad we get to talk. You and that charming little ghost of yours, you're not like the rest. You're not afraid of my words. Words are just thoughts given shape. Ideas emerging into the physical world, birthed by a mouth. Not good or evil, not light or dark, or this or that. And you understand, don't you? Despite the excruciatingly binary worldview of those around you. You don't have to say it. We've all heard it before. The line between light and dark is so very thin. As if you were incapable of lifting your eyes from a scroll of chalk on the ground. The traveler in the light near one foot, your old enemies and the darkness at the other. Let me tell you a secret. If you ever want to see what's been watching you since the very beginning, just stand on that line and look up.
Is that it? Damn, the clams are really going crazy today. Good for them. I guess that's it. Okay. Whatever. Yeah, so I don't know, 7 years ago or so, when Destiny first came out, I guess it is. 7 years? Destiny 1? Maybe 8. I don't know. It's hard to say. Anyway, a good many years back when this game was brand new and everybody was tossing theories around, I had this concept in my head. Of course, at the time, I had just gotten done watching Lost, and especially the one episode that stuck out in my head was the one where John Locke is talking about good and evil. And, well, he exposes this constantly. But anyway, the point being is that knowing Bungie as being well read as they are, and very much into the whole yin and yang of the universe kind of situation, the Bungie studio and the Wachowskis share a lot in their interests in philosophies, science fiction, true science fiction that is, and of course the grand adventure of fantasy. When I say true science fiction, I know it's debatable anymore these days, but a lot of people just have this misconception that just because it's wrapped up in ray guns and robots that it must be sci-fi. But that's not always the case. Star Wars is technically a fantasy because it has very ambiguous explanations of magic and technology in their universe, and nobody actually breaks down how a hyperdrive works. Nobody actually breaks down how a blaster works, or how any of the different pieces of various tools that they use. So it becomes a fantasy because there's a lot of hand waving with the magic system and the technology, which is basically the magic system. Um, Whereas you get a movie like 2001: A Space Odyssey, no, they don't break down how all the tech works, but it's grounded in real science for the most part, as understood in the 1960s, of course. You have to understand, and Kubrick, like all artists, will go ahead and make changes to the physics of a world just to make sure that the story is told properly. For instance, in your book, going to Jupiter was a slingshot thing. No, they were supposed to go to Saturn. How did it work out? My solar geography is shit right now. Oh my, I have to look this up. Like I said, unprepared. Let's see. Sol system and the solar system. Here we go. Let's get a nice little picture here. Okay, yeah. So it's like it's Jupiter first, then Saturn. Right? Oh my. Yeah, Jupiter first, and then there's Saturn. So Saturn's further out. Okay, so in the book, they did a slingshot around Saturn, the Discovery. Did a slingshot around Saturn. By the way, fun fact for nerds, the Discovery shuttlecraft was named after the actual discovery of the 2001 Space Odyssey movie. And then later, that shuttlecraft became the namesake for a Star Trek vessel. So totally cool there. A little bit of looping going on. But anyway, so the Discovery in 2001: A Space Odyssey did a slingshot maneuver around Saturn so that it could then do a quick bypass over Jupiter because it wouldn't have enough fuel to get back to Earth with all the data that it was collecting. It was never meant to pick up orbit in Jupiter. It was never meant to slow down enough. Well, it was going to slow down anyway, but that's how much the book, how much thought went into the science of the fiction of 2001: A Space Odyssey. On a similar note, Forbidden Planet is oftentimes considered to be a sci-fi and one of the greatest, oldest meme-producing and trope-producing sci-fis of its genre. But it is also in itself a fantasy. Ooh, Adagio. And heating up? Fucking, this is like, what? Final blows with this weapon increase accuracy and stability while improving vertical recoil. And then, after defeating a target, this weapon fires, charges, or draws more slowly and deals increased damage for a brief time. So I get an option. I could fire slower or draw slower. Weapons fires slower or charges. Okay. I don't know if I want to. This is like, I'm gonna get a little extra range on that. That's a little bit more stability. Damn. That is like two perks I think really kind of do work against each other. And I know that hot chocolate and chili powder are a thing, but that's not even in the same wheelhouse of operations. That deliberately opposes each other. Yeah. So. Science fiction, okay. Knowing that Bungie was, grounded in their sci-fi and fantasy, and they're a really well-read studio. There are a lot of references to books and popular authors, and even some movie references. I always thought it was very, very cool, that they did this. And then early on, I was like, okay, wait a minute. I knew that the original story for Destiny was basically a dumpster fire because a large portion of the creative team decided to peace out because of differences. They want to say creative differences, makes them sound all nice and noble and stuff, but really it was just a clash of egos. Somebody wanted something. They were getting upset at the fact that everything was being torn apart, and they didn't like that. And when you have that disagreement, you have that difference, you have that dissonance, it does cause friction in the studio. You can't really, honestly say you're doing a good job when you're constantly micromanaging, egos. I had a artist friend of mine. She used to host shows, and she called it cat herding. And she hosted art shows as well as ran her own tattoo studio and everything. And it was like, I mean, wow, managing all those artists was just amazing. But yeah, so when you're herding that many cats, it's kind of hard to keep a focus. So I wasn't expecting too much of the story when it launched, although there was enough there in Destiny 1 to really get my interest and make me feel like this was a world I can grow into and explore and get really invested in. And I did so much that Destiny 1 got platinum. And when Destiny 2 came out, I was really super excited for the fact that, hey, we're going to be lightless. We're going to find out, just how cool our Guardians are without the light. And we were barely without our light for, I think, 2 chapters? Barely 2 chapters, okay? we got to see the Vanguard go without their light when we saw what happened to them. We got to experience, the you know terrible toll that it took on the rest of the Guardian Force. But really, honestly, there was nothing really going on. Very disappointed. Um, and it was kind of like the tilt that kind of drew me away from pursuing uh, aspirational content, because I was like, well, there's no point. There's no stakes, you know. So wrapped up at this point because I'm already 10 minutes in, and I want to kind of keep these less than 15. So Savathun talking about the light and the dark and who's really been watching me all this time. Stand on that line and look up. Well, I mean, if we want to be literal about it, you stand at the line between light and dark. The line between light and dark is here on the reef and at the Dreaming City. You also have a line between light and dark right here in Europa. Um, and I mean, honestly, if we go to Europa, let me see. Let's just go right here, because I think this is the real. This is actually the line between light and dark. And we want to think about that. Um, we get the lore tabs about the Gardener and the Winnower. We talk about how the Winnower is the Black Fleet. Savathun's talking about how she was trying to protect us from the. I say they. I'm giving away things here. Sorry. Um, Savathun talks about how she's trying to protect us from the Black Fleet back on Io, and that we were calling it interference. Um, she is a deceiver. She is a liar. She is a machinator. She plays the long game, and you know you can't take everything she says for its full truth. But the best lies in the world are grounded on a truth. It's kind of like you plant that seed. That seed is the lie, and the lie grows. But the lie only grows because the soil that has planted it is rich with the truth. And, the nutrients that feed the lie, and that's how politicians and government leaders and pretty much anybody out there in authority who has power. Don't forget this. The only thing people in power fear is losing that power, and so they create a lie or false flag operations. But it's all based on some kind of truth. So when you're looking at Savathun and you're thinking about, what's the lie? I mean, we're here on Europa, and Europa is a moon on Jupiter. And so we have Keidel's warships right here at this angle. The Cabal warships looks like a Necron monolith. That's kind of cool. And then we have the Black Fleet triangle lander right over there. Then we have this thing here, which is also where the darkness is supposed to come from, or stasis power specifically. And that's granted by this. So how is Savathun protecting us from these guys, yet at the same time encouraging us to go ahead and do all this? Like I said, it makes no sense whatsoever. Until you start thinking about the fact that that's who's been watching us all this time. And who's at Jupiter? Who's in orbit around Jupiter? Well, the Jovian system is where the Nine are, and that's really who's been watching us. The Nine awoken, who left the distributary and became basically the watchers of the universe. If you want to know who's really watching you all this time, he visits us every week between Friday and Monday. So, and they don't follow the light or the dark. They're like the Bendu when you think about the Force. You have the dark side of the Force, you have the light side of the Force. And the only difference between the light and the dark and the Force is one is selfish and one is selfless. One is compassionate, while the other one is just purely passion. One is generous, while the other one is stingy or miserly. One is patient, while the other one is aggressive. But in between those is the Bendu. They are neither light nor dark. They are just Force users. And you have to understand that this paracausal energy has the same principles as the Force. So when Savathun's talking about standing on that line and look up, well, when we cross that line of light and dark in the game, what greets us on the other side? It is the Nine. So that's who's really pulling the strings. And I've often theorized that the Nine are totally in control of the Traveler and the Black Fleet. And from the very beginning, when the speaker talked about the Traveler and how it defended itself by creating the ghosts to go out and get the Guardians to go ahead and gather up humanity to protect humanity, we're not just protecting humanity. You know, we were the Guardians. I say we because I'm in the character here as my exo. We were created. I'm like a twice baked potato as an exo. I was created by humans to serve humans and protect the war mind, and then I was recreated by ghosts to serve humans and the Traveler and protect the Traveler. That's crazy. Twice baked potato. That's a thing. Anyway, it's been 50 minutes. I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks for stopping by. You get my point.